This is Storybook Radio.
Chapter 2. Two eyes stare back from the bathroom mirror, bloodshot and weary. Phoenix leans over the sink, letting the water run endlessly, filling the room with a cloud of steam that fogs the glass shower and dampens the white tiles beneath his bare feet. Condensation creeps across the mirror, obscuring his reflection, and he watches as the image in the center fades into a dull haze. His mind drifts into an endless loop of what-ifs. If only there had been a different route to the boat that day. If only they'd boarded 5 minutes later, he might not have stopped to buy the last bag of fresh cashews from that persistent vendor. Or maybe, if there had been another late night at work, he wouldn't have noticed the cruise flyer, 50% off if booked within 24 hours, tucked beneath the chair wheels in someone else's cubicle. Why had his eyes been drawn to that nondescript, crumpled flyer against the drab office carpet? Phoenix cups his hand under the faucet, catching the water as it heats to an unbearable burn. His palm fills, and he throws the scalding water at his face. It stings. His skin reddens, but his voice remains silent. Frustration wells up, primal and overwhelming. He stretches his hand back and slaps his cheek hard, the sharp sound echoing through the tiled room. Still, there's no scream, no sound, just silence. His fingers trace his throat frantically, pressing against his Adam's apple as though trying to locate the words trapped inside. He stumbles backward, knocking over his hygiene container. A toothbrush, a bottle of mouth rinse, and a handful of combs tumble out of a Ziploc bag and scatter across the floor. He stares at the mess, but the futility of the situation anchors him. Seeking help feels impossible, and he keeps delaying a visit to the doctor, hoping the condition will magically improve, or worsen so significantly it forces him to act. Today, though, there's little optimism left. At 3:32 p.m., Phoenix steps into a small, sterile medical room. The air smells faintly of disinfectant, and the walls are lined with gadgets. An otoscope and ophthalmoscope hang neatly on the wall, while a vital signs monitor sits on the floor. He takes a seat on the tan leather examination table, feeling its cold surface through his thin shirt. A knock interrupts the quiet. "Hello, Mr. Phoenix." Dr. Eubanks enters with a practiced calm, his white lab coat unbuttoned over khakis, and a charcoal gray stethoscope draped around his neck. His slicked-back hair and sharp features give him the look of an aging detective who stepped out of an 80s crime drama. "What brings you in today?" Phoenix moves his lips instinctively to speak, but stops short, realizing the futility. Instead, he peels back a finger and points at the pen clipped to the doctor's shirt pocket. "Ah, yes, my apologies." Dr. Eubanks pulls a sticky notepad from his coat, tears off a vibrant green slip, and hands it to Phoenix, along with his pen. Phoenix scribbles quickly, filling the small space with paragraphs on both sides. The doctor reads the note, his glasses perched low on his nose. He murmurs. "You say this difficulty speaking began after the passing of your son, just 2 days ago?" Phoenix nods, his jaw tight. Dr. Eubanks steps closer, his hands gently palpating Phoenix's throat. "Any soreness here?" Phoenix shakes his head. "Trouble swallowing? Chewing food?" Another shake, slower this time. The doctor exhales softly. "Very well. I'd like to get an X-ray and a CT scan of your brain. This may help us identify the root cause." He gestures toward the door, signaling the next steps. Phoenix gives a thumbs up. A radiology tech enters moments later, handing him a gown and slip-resistant socks before stepping back out to give him privacy. The cold fabric clings to Phoenix as he changes. The medical process feels clinical and detached, a series of rooms, machines, and sterile corridors that all blur together. By the time he returns to the examination room, dressed in his clothes, a tension has settled in his chest. He waits, his thoughts spiraling as the seconds drag into minutes. Outside the door, hushed voices exchange words. The muffled sound of someone's southern drawl stands out, sending a ripple of unease through Phoenix. Why aren't they coming in? Why delay if there's no bad news? The door finally swings open, and Dr. Eubanks steps in, holding a thin sheet of film. He places the X-ray and CT scan results on a light board, flipping the switch to illuminate them. Phoenix's throat and brain are clearly outlined in sharp relief. "Usually I wouldn't show scans without abnormalities unless requested," the doctor begins, his voice tinged with hesitation. But in your case, there's no physical cause we can find. Nothing appears damaged or obstructed. Phoenix stiffens. Dr. Eubanks folds his hands, his tone turning gentler. I recommend seeing a clinical therapist for a psychological evaluation. It may help us determine if there's a psychological root to your condition. The words hit Phoenix like a slap. He hears the subtext. This is in your head. He grabs the referral slip, his movements mechanical, and storms out without a word, heading to his job, Lexington Company. Across town, Phoenix eases his two-tone Mustang into the parking garage of Lexington Company. The crisp leather of the driver's seat is a familiar comfort, but when he glances at the passenger side, fear grips him. Henry's red cargo hat, always kept there as a memory, isn't in its spot. He panics for a moment, only to spot it on the floor. Lexington Company interior resembles a labyrinth, a maze of narrow aisles and cubicle walls that force you to navigate like a rat chasing a morsel of cheese. Only here, the rats wear suits and ties, their Steve Madden loafers propped casually on desks as they banter about clients and quotas. Offices encircle the perimeter, each glass-walled room offering a glimpse of higher-ups lost in spreadsheets and muted phone calls. The heart of the floor is a hive of cubicles, a grid of identical workstations packed with half-empty coffee cups, family photos, and neglected paperwork. Phoenix weaves through the maze, moving purposefully toward his old desk. He dodges coworkers moving in a cluster, spilling out the conference room, their laughter an unwelcome reminder of the life he no longer feels a part of. His steps falter as he nears his station. Something's off. He pauses behind his chair, taking in the sight of a stranger occupying his space. The man is lean, with brown hair falling haphazardly around his ears. He reclines in Phoenix's chair, his posture casual, his patchy beard giving him a slightly disheveled air. "Can I help you, sir?" the man asks, his tone polite but guarded. Phoenix's eyes dart to the desk. It's empty. Gone are the stacks of papers from his adware clients. Gone is the photo of his wife, Rachel, her radiant smile frozen in time. Gone is the framed snapshot of Henry clutching his favorite red cargo hat. The desk is barren, stripped of anything that belonged to him. Just then, the manager of his team strides over, his polished shoes clicking against the tile. His expression is a mixture of pity and annoyance. "Phoenix, is that you?" Phoenix grabs a random sheet of paper from the desk, flips it over to the blank side, and scribbles furiously with a pen he pulls from the stranger's hand. "What happened to my possessions? You could at least introduce me to the new hire." The manager sighs, exasperated. "Phoenix, you do know you don't work here anymore, right?" Phoenix freezes, the pen suspended midair. His grip tightens and the paper flutters slightly in his trembling hands. He scrawls another question in bold, erratic letters. "I'm fired?" The manager exhales deeply, pinching the bridge of his nose. "You're no longer employed here. A letter was sent out 3 weeks ago explaining your termination." Phoenix Death grips the pen, puncturing a hole in the paper. "I was here. A week ago. That's not accurate." The manager shrugs, his expression neutral. "Just go home, Phoenix. Find the letter. You're not allowed to be on the premises." Back at home, Phoenix paces through his 2-story brick house. The moonlight streams through the patio window, casting a white glare across the hardwood floor. He scours every corner of the house, searching frantically for the termination letter. Drawers are pulled open, papers are shuffled, and cushions are overturned in a storm of frustration. After 21 minutes, his search yields nothing. Exhausted, he collapses into his bed, peeling off his shoes before sliding under the covers. His fingers grope blindly for his phone charger on the nightstand. That's when his hand brushes against something crisp. An envelope. The letter. He rips it open, the printed words glaring back at him. "Lexington Company. I am sorry to inform you that your employment with Lexington Company is terminated effective immediately. The reason for your termination is due to excessive absenteeism." Phoenix's eyes drop to the date. 3 weeks ago. He has no memory of receiving the letter, no idea how it ended up here. His stomach churns with unease. Sleep doesn't come easily, but when it does, it pulls him into a world that mirrors his own, yet feels entirely foreign. He stands in Hapesville, a town steeped in a strange familiarity. In the distance, an art museum towers above a steep incline, its modern design resembling a glass cube crowned with a cylindrical apex. Phoenix begins to climb the hillside steps leading to the museum. His movements feel involuntary, as if the environment itself is carrying him forward. Inside, the museum is both familiar and wrong. The layout mirrors the real-world Model B art museum, but is inverted. Where the staircase in Model B ascends from the right, here it curls up from the left. The symmetry is unsettling, like a reflection that distorts reality just enough to make you question it. Phoenix pauses in the lobby by the staircase, an ominous energy prickling his skin. Goosebumps rise along his arms as he scans the empty space. The silence is heavy, oppressive. The only other person in sight is a young brunette clerk behind the desk, dressed incongruously in a Japanese schoolgirl uniform. He hears footsteps, sharp, swift. They echo through the vast lobby, drawing closer. Phoenix swivels toward the sound, his heart racing. But there's nothing there. His breath catches as the footsteps stop abruptly at his side. "Hello there," a deep voice says. Phoenix jerks his head to the left. A towering figure stands before him, at least 8 feet tall. The man's skin has a faint bluish tint, and he's clad in an impeccably tailored black tuxedo. Atop his head sits a wide-brimmed fedora that casts a shadow over his sharp features. "My name is the Omniscient," the man says, his lips curling into a grin that stretches unnaturally wide. "Haven't we met before?" Phoenix's mouth opens, and to his shock, words spill out. "I'm Phoenix. Wait, I can talk?" His hand flies to his throat, disbelief etched across his face. "I can talk in here." "Yes, you can," the Omniscient replies smoothly. "Welcome to my town, Hapesville." Phoenix takes a cautious step back, his shoulders stiffening. He forces himself to breathe deeply, trying to calm the whirlwind of emotions swirling within him. "Did I see you at—" The Omniscient cuts him off, his voice smooth and commanding. "Maybe you did, or maybe you didn't. But I do remember seeing you." Phoenix narrows his eyes. "What do you want from me?" The Omniscient's smile stretches wider, an unnerving display of teeth. He laces his long fingers together. "I know a gray theory that will get your voice back. In the real world." Phoenix's eyes widen, his desperation palpable. "Tell me, how do I—" The Omniscient raises a hand, silencing him with a gesture. He savors the moment, basking in the energy radiating from Phoenix's frantic hope. Just as he opens his mouth to speak, the sound of a buzzing alarm jolts Phoenix awake. He sits up abruptly in his bed, heart pounding. The clock reads 7:20 a.m.